Freedom-loving friends, Miste Karlfeldt here with Health Freedom Idaho, and I'm here with Senator Brian Lenney. I'm really excited. If you don't already know him, you are about to get to know him because he just is who he is all the time, and you're going to know him a little bit better after a little interview here. We're going to talk about Health Freedom Idaho bills and things that he did last legislative session and what he is going to do if you elect him again. Hi, Brian. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, always good to join the health freedom community people. Somebody told me you're not supposed to say everything that you think. So it's been a lifelong problem, but I'm working on it.
I actually really love that you say everything that you think. And I think the other people are going to love that too, because you're not this polished politician. In fact, I interviewed you the last time around, the last election, and you just were exactly who you are today. And you actually made good on the things that you said you were going to do in regards to health freedom. So if anybody wants to see that interview, go back and watch it. And then look at his record, and you're going to see that he did exactly what he said he was going to do for health freedom. Yeah, I totally appreciate it. So you want to go another round, huh? You want to do it again?
I feel compelled to do it again. Yeah. Want to, it's, I feel like I almost feel like I have to. It sounds so cliche, like the whole reluctant hero thing. I'm not really saying that, but I feel like Idaho's, we're right on the cliff. We're the cliff is right there, and we're about to fall off it. And if we don't have some strong men and women with moral courage and tenacity and people who will go in there and fight, we're going to lose Idaho, and we're going to look just like Colorado. Or I know it's really popular to say we don't want to become California, which I agree because I used to live there. And but I think we're going to look more like Colorado or Oregon if we don't get rid of the weak men and women. It's mostly weak men leading our state. So I feel compelled to do it again.
I hear
you know what I mean? Like I wish I didn't have to, but I feel like I need to.
Right. So. Well, I agree with you. I agree with you that you need to, and I thank you for doing it anyway, in spite of all the abuse you've taken. But that's the perfect lead-in, because it's exactly what you say, and it's exactly what your website says, which is that you're fighting like hell for the people of Idaho.
Hell is in red there, you know.
Yeah, underlined, and then this peaceful like lake view.
Yeah, it's the Idaho. I mean, it's the Idaho outdoors with the But I mean, that's, I tell people all the time when this comes up, that if they're not ready for, I should say this: if you're a principled conservative person and you're running for the state legislature, you're signing up for Fight Club. You really are. And if you're not ready for that, just don't run. Because like I said, if you're a principled person, you're going to go in there and you can't not, butt heads with people, and not even in a bad way. Like, that doesn't mean you're not friends with it. But I mean, principled people stick by their principles. And there's a lot of people that get elected and they just they might start strong for a couple weeks, couple months, and then they just kind of fade into this kind of middle squishy category where they're not really liberal, but they're not conservative. They're just kind of this middle person. And that's exactly, they're weak men and women. And that's exactly what the establishment wants, because weak men and women can be controlled. So it really is a fight if you have principles. That's how I view it, at least.
Well, I heard Tucker Carlson say, he just did an interview with Joe Rogan, and he said, weak people become hosts for evil.
Yes, exactly that. Yes.
Yeah.
You see it, and you're like, man, that guy's not a bad guy, or but they're just doing all this. They're exactly. Tucker Carlson nailed it. A host for evil.
Yeah.
So
totally nailed it. It just gave me chills. It totally resonated. So, and speaking of like seeing it through your principles all the way through legislative session, here is your Freedom Index from the Idaho Freedom Foundation. If people aren't familiar with the Freedom Index, it's one of the tools that you can use when you're voting to see how your elected did last legislative session and the session before, see how they represented you. I think, Brian, you're probably pretty proud of that score, I would imagine.
Yeah. What is it? 90 Freedom. I'm doing this on my phone, obviously. I'm on vacation, by the way. So I know, Misty, we talked about it, but if like you hear some slamming into the wall or a kid flies through the window behind me, we're at kind of a sort of like family reunion kind of vacation. And I'm in my brother's office doing this on my phone. So, but hey, it's a good place to be with family. Yeah, I mean, the Idaho Freedom Foundation, they get a lot of press. Liberals don't like them. Moderate kind of liberal Republicans especially don't like them because the Idaho Freedom Foundation kind of shines a light on what's happening in the legislature. And if you're doing stuff that's not very conservative, people are going to find out. So it's a good rating. It's a group, they rate something like 300 something bills every year, which is pretty neat. And it's all, no one's sitting at the Idaho, from the way I understand it. I don't obviously work for them or anything, but the way I understand it is there's an algorithm. So they rate different bills based on, is this a conservative bill? Is this a good bill, bad bill? They give it a numeric value to hundreds of bills. And then depending on how people vote, the algorithm spits out a score. So when, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, the Freedom Foundation gave you so-and-so this rating, or, oh, they gave so-and-so. It's like, no, legislators earn their score.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the freedom stuff is pretty obvious, that 90.8%. I haven't looked at this in a while. I knew it was around there somewhere. That's saying, are we voting like a small government conservative or not? The spending score is just what it sounds like. Are we growing government? Are we growing the government spending at a unnecessary rate? So the higher the score, the better on all of these. And the education, from the way I read it, tends to skew more towards like freedom in education, school choice, things like that. But I mean, you have Republicans in there. When you pull up their freedom score, there's Republicans, and you pull them up next to some Democrats, and there's like very little difference between a lot of people. So that's one metric. There's a lot of them, but Freedom Foundation's great.
Yeah, I actually did the average a couple of years ago because I thought, well, what is Idaho's actual average? And averaging out all of our legislators, it was a D on the freedom score for the Idaho legislature. So when you hear people say that we're a ruby red state, or that we're such a conservative state, we're all a Republican state, but we're not voting right, and so that's the problem to the voters. Okay, guys, that's why I do interviews in these videos, so you can be an educated voter, because our voting record sucks as far as Idaho in general, but not Brian Lenney. 100% on that education score is amazing. I appreciate that. But let's talk about some health freedom stuff. You championed our 39414, which is really about the health districts being able to do all things. That's what Idaho law says right now. That health districts can do all things when it comes to public health, which is just overly broad. Obviously, all things is all things. And Health Freedom Idaho, Sarah Clendenin, works on our bills, lined out all things and replaced it with necessary and reasonable. I actually cannot believe that this couldn't pass this legislative session.
I know. We even had some Democrats vote in favor of this bill. So it was House Bill 525. That exactly what you just said. So we passed it in committee twice because we kind of had to have what's the word? I wanted to say amend the bill. I'm a copywriter, so edit's always in my head. We had to amend the first version of it, and then we had to come back, but it passed out of the House Health and Welfare Committee twice. It passed the House floor. I believe it was like a veto-proof majority. And this is, and then it got to the Senate, and it did what a lot of good bills do. It got to the Senate and died. This one, they at least gave it a hearing in the Senate, and it died on a tie vote, 3-3. And this is again in a Republican controlled state. I mean, bills like this, we shouldn't even have to try. You know what I mean? So what this bill did, it just literally said, hey, health districts, public health districts, and I believe you were at the hearing on the Senate side. Yeah, you were there. You testified as well. Public health districts were the ones responsible ultimately for the lockdowns, the social distancing, moms getting arrested in parks, the snipers on the roof in Boise, Lockheed. They did all of the stuff that pissed people off about the pandemic. They call it a pandemic. The real pandemic is we're run by a corrupt bureaucratic empire. That's the real pandemic that's happening right now. But they made up a health pandemic to scare people, and the public health districts can literally do all things. It literally says in code, like you mentioned, in the name of preventative medicine, preventative health. So all we did is say, hey, let's just add a layer of accountability here. Let's at least make them explain themselves. Yes. So they can't do all things. They can do necessary and reasonable things. And I still can't believe that bill died on a tie vote. And there was one person absent from the committee. I don't know how that person would have voted. Maybe they would have voted for it, maybe not. But I think it would have passed the Senate floor for sure. I'm pretty confident it would have. But again, like I said, we have a corrupt bureaucratic empire, and it has tentacles, and those tentacles make their way into everything, including this bill.
Well, I've been calling out Senator Mark Harris for not being there. I understand that he was presenting another bill. But if I understand right, I mean, we were on the calendar for like almost a week. So he would have known, right, that we were on the calendar and how important this bill was.
He should, yeah. I mean, there's a posted agenda, and sometimes you do miss committees I didn't. Maybe it was a legitimate thing, maybe not. Sometimes you miss a committee because you're presenting a bill in another committee. So who knows? I didn't talk to him about that specific one, but I was bummed out that I don't know if he would have voted in favor of this or not, to be honest. But yeah, that vote would have made it not a tie vote. That could have been the deciding vote, or it would have just been one more vote against it. But it's crazy to me that, people say in the state house, I've heard this because I had a few health freedom bills I'm sure we'll talk about, but people say, I don't want to relitigate COVID, but yada, yada, yada. Or I have this bill. I don't want to, no, I do want to relitigate COVID. We have major issues in our state that have not been dealt with properly. And I think we need to relitigate the hell out of COVID. The pandemic stuff, there was horrific things that took place in our state that have just been kind of pushed to the side. So, I mean, I'm going to bring this bill back.
Yes, that's what I wanted to hear.
Election here. So, and some other bills too.
Good. That's what I wanted to hear, because I understand that, they're like, well, I just want to talk about other things now. I'm with you. I'm not letting it go. I don't want any government agency able to do all things to me and my children. All things. No government agency should have that power.
You would think, yeah, I mean, you would think it'd be a slam dunk, because in reality, if this bill passed, the public health districts are still essentially going to do whatever they want, I would think. But now they would have to justify it and explain it, if this bill passed, whereas currently right now, they could just do whatever they want. They don't owe anyone an explanation because they have the power legally to do anything they want during a public health emergency or whatever we want to call it.
Right.
So it's crazy. I said that. I know you were in the and I presented this bill 3 damn times, 3 different committees, and you would think it'd be a slam dunk, even with Democrats, to say that no government agency or political subdivision should have literally unlimited, unconstrained power to do whatever they want. Even if you like the agency, there should be some accountability.
Right.
So that's all this bill did, and I still it blows me away that it passed. I thought I wouldn't even have to argue about it.
Right. Right. So. It just
Yeah.
seems so obvious. I agree with you. I can't believe 3 people feel good about voting against that bill and going home to their kids and being like, yeah, I just really want the health district to be able to do all things. So it's kind of disgusting.
I mean, that could be, yeah, I agree. That could be concentrate. Like people always say, oh, they'd never do that. Well, concentration camps. They were talking about putting unvaccinated people in camps. You know, they were talking about taking your kids away from you. Our Canyon County Sheriff said was threatening, like with CPS, if you don't fall in line with these pandemic orders. Like all things really means all things. You know. What if they say, hey, for the next pandemic they make up, whatever disease that's going to be, just pick one. I saw a thing on bird flu recently. They've tried the swine, you know, they've tried everything, SARS. But what if during the next one they say, hey, the all things we want to do is take your kids away from you and put you in a camp? Well, they technically, I don't think they would, but you know, they could. Right. So who knows? Right.
So another one you worked on is the mask mandates, and this was to stop any mask mandates, and this was H493. This was one that Health Freedom Idaho supported. We didn't write this one, but we supported it, and I know you were really working hard to get it passed. Where did it end up?
So same fate as the other one, except not really. So this bill I did with Representative Jason Gallagher. She's in District 9 also. So I'm a member of the Idaho Freedom Caucus, and it's a group of, you know, conservative Republicans who try to stick to the Idaho GOP platform more or less, which is pretty dang conservative. So Jason Gallagher and I carried this bill. She's also a member of the Freedom Caucus. She's up for re-election in District 9. They have some Manchurian candidate running against her, in my opinion. Allegedly, in my opinion. Don't sue me. Allegedly, in my opinion. There's a lot of Manchurian candidates running for this Republican primary in May. But so that was House Bill 493, and that just said no government agency or political subdivision will ever require or force someone to wear a mask again. And that included cities, counties, schools, anything that has a government paycheck, any government agency, you cannot require mask mandates. Again, started it on the House side, Representative Gallagher. We kind of co-presented it. Flew through the committee. We even had a Democrat vote for this in committee. We had a Democrat, we had a very liberal Democrat actually vote for the health districts bill, the all things bill. So these are things that, in my opinion, transcend politics and ideology, and they're just a basic human right. There's something I've learned in the legislature over the past couple of years is there's, you know, people like to talk about rhinos and stuff. I usually don't use that term just because I don't think it's specific enough. That's why when you hear me talk, I say we have liberal or moderate Republicans. That makes more sense than like rhino. Or there's some things even with Democrats we have in common. There's things that I think a lot of people have a lot of more in common than we agree on. And I thought this was one of those things, saying we shouldn't mask our kids. Passed the House, I think it was like a party line vote, maybe. Veto proof majority. It got to the Senate State Affairs Committee. So for people who don't know, any bill has to pass a committee. That's kind of the first hurdle. Then it goes to the House floor or the Senate floor, whatever side you started on. Then if it passes the floor, then it goes to the other side. So it has to pass both sides of the legislature and have the governor sign it. This bill that said we can't do mask mandates, the Senate State Affairs chairman wouldn't even give it a hearing. After it had a veto-proof majority, it flew through the House. Tons of people voted for it. Veto-proof, meaning like overwhelming majority. He wouldn't even let me present the bill in the Senate. And I said, well, why is that? He said, I don't think people want to hear this.
Really?
We're relitigating COVID. This is kind of a knock on the cities. I'm like, it is. It's also a knock on the schools, and it's a knock on every government agency that violated our human rights by forcing. The one that pisses me off most is the kids in schools.
Yeah.
Yes, it is a knock on the cities and schools and agencies that force masked children and delayed their development and caused more health issues. And yeah, it is. And people do want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it, but the people, I guarantee you, if we did a simple random sample of the entire state of Idaho, the overwhelming majority across all political spectrums would be, no more mask mandates. But again, there's a saying that says the Idaho Senate is the place where good bills go to die. And even though we elected a ton of conservatives in 2022, we still can't, we still need to elect more. So.
And was that Senator Guthrie?
Yes. Yep. Chair, the current chair of the Senate State Affairs Committee. Yep.
Yeah. So
a lot of bills got held in that committee. I mean, bills get held in a lot of committees, but a lot of stuff that should be a slam dunk gets everyone likes to play political games for whatever reason. So.
Yeah. And then you did a CPS bill. You want to talk about that?
CPS bill. Which one was that?
I thought you had a CPS bill that we were supporting that had to do with, well, I know the one that passed that was Scott Herndon's bill was the notification of rights bill, and that one passed, but I thought you also had a CPS bill. Or was that last legislative session?
That was last year.
Oh, okay.
And that one passed. That one passed. They let me have a win on that. But that was I think it was Senate Bill 1029 in 2023. So that was a bill that said CPS can't initiate an investigation or determine parental rights based on vaccine status. Yeah, and then but that one passed and it's law. So cool. We're making progress little by little. And yeah, Herndon's bill, he ran with Heather Scott. That was Senate Bill 1232 that said CPS has to notify parents of their rights upon first encounter. And there's people who argued against it. It passed, but just imagine for people who think Idaho is this amazing conservative utopia, just imagine arguing as a Republican, arguing against a bill that says if CPS knocks on your door, they have to notify you of your rights right when you open the door. Some people were against that.
Not more rights, just the rights you already have.
Yes, it's nuts. I mean, we're in a place that I think goes beyond, and it's kind of what I said earlier. As a state, just on whole, we're in a place I think that goes beyond left and right and liberal and liberal and conservative and Democrat and Republican. We're at a place where are you a part of the bureaucratic machine or are you not? Yeah. And there's people from both parties who are and people from both parties who are not. It's almost like the system versus the people. That's what it feels like to me.
Yes.
Not like left versus, those things exist, but I think the bigger picture and what's really going on is, are you going to be a yes man and play ball and be a part of the bureaucracy, or are you not? And the people who are not, like myself, we get the book thrown at us and we get, some of the attack ads and stuff going on against me right now are I laugh at them, trying to paint me as a closet liberal, saying I want to defund the police. There's so many stupid ads that have no basis in reality going on because they don't know what else to do. All they know is they want people like me gone. So if you go against the system and if you refuse to play ball, they will throw everything at you. So I'm in the midst of feeling the weight of that right now for this re-election.
Yeah, I'm sure. And that's why I really want your district to understand what you've done for health freedom. So if health freedom is a key factor when you go to vote, I want you to know what you've had in the legislature, which is someone who's really fought for health freedom. And I have to backtrack for a minute about Scott Herndon's bill and just add that simple notification of rights bill took 4 years to pass. That's what we're dealing with at the Capitol. And so anyway, this the health districts can do all things. We attempted it the first year, couldn't even get a hearing. This would be the second year. So if it takes 4 years to pass the most simple bills, we need you in there championing it this next legislative session. And I have to say too, we don't endorse candidates, but what we do is give the voters the education that they need to make a good decision at the ballot box. And I mean, really, Brian, you've just done so much for health freedom. I appreciate you very much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It is at the top of my list. Everyone thinks, I mean, we've talked and we know each other a little bit, and you know me and I know you, but I mean, a lot of people just read news headlines and a lot of people think my take on me, I'm biased, but it seems like there's a narrative in the media which is largely hostile to conservatives, obviously. That education is my main thing. And obviously I'm on the Senate Education Committee, and it is important. And I do have very strong opinions and ideas and things like that surrounding education. But really the health, and I've told you this, and I've said this, I probably said it last time we did a podcast interview. The health freedom stuff really is kind of top of the list for me. I mean, we have, Tammy Nichols has done a lot of good here also. She had a bill saying that Idaho, I'm just kind of I don't have my notes in front of me for this, but she had a bill that said the Idaho will not recognize any what is it, the World Economic Forum treaty, the WHO. Like, hey, for people who know what's going on, this whole Great Reset, World Economic Forum garbage they're pushing on us. But to basically say, hey, by 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. So for them to enslave people, you don't have health freedom. You don't get freedom of speech. You don't get private property. If you own nothing, and they want complete and total control. So Tammy Nichols had a bill that essentially said, hey, any treaty that the U.S. ratifies under creepy Joe Biden with the World Health Organization, Idaho will not play ball. We're not going to recognize it. We're not going to abide by it. I don't even think she got that out of a committee. I mean, imagine, and Tammy, I don't know if you're going to have her on or talk to her, but talk to her about that bill, because that's like, so you had people saying, no, I think we should be under the World Health Organization's treaties. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Well, I'll tell you how that actually went down. Because Health Freedom Idaho asked for that to be amended, because the first paragraph of that bill did exactly what you're saying it did, which was awesome. And we supported that and loved it. And that's exactly what they passed in Louisiana. But the second two paragraphs of that bill actually gave the ability for the legislature by majority vote of the House and the Senate to actually impose health things upon the person. Did you happen to read that bill?
Did I what?
Did you happen to read that bill?
No, I didn't read that one.
It
was never in front of me for a vote or anything. I remember. Okay, I remember this now. There was some kerfuffle. So basically, first part did a good thing, and then it kind of could have been undone by the rest of the bill, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, that was really our issue with it, and I really do hope that she brings it back, because I'm going to share the screen here, because I love the first paragraph. Health Freedom Defense Fund actually was asking also for it to be amended, and Health Freedom Idaho and what's the Liberty Alliance?
Magic Valley Liberty Alliance.
Yeah, Magic Valley Liberty Alliance, so we asked for it to be amended, because it actually gave, as we were actually fighting for the health districts to not be able to do all things, this bill gave the power to the legislative branch to be able to do all things, like removed it from the WHO, but then gave it to the legislature. And so we're supportive section 1, but not subsection 2 and 3. And I mean, you can pull up that bill and see what our concerns were. I really do hope she brings it back, because it is very important, that bill. And Louisiana was able to get it passed without that second and third paragraph. Just removing the authority for.
If we're back, I'm sure someone will bring it back. Tammy's really passionate about that kind of stuff too. So
yeah,
I think if everyone gets on the same page, that'd be awesome to get this through. There was also another bill that what bill number was it? It was, well, there was 3 of them. So there was a bill where Bayer Bayer tried to get lifetime immunity, saying that, hey, people who get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or Parkinson's or whatever from Roundup, like we're immune to lawsuits. So Bayer tried that 3 times. We killed it, killed it dead on the Senate floor, which that doesn't happen a lot, to kill a bill on the Senate floor.
Especially a bad bill. I could not believe it. It was awesome. Good
bills get killed often.
Yeah.
I had an anti-SLAPP bill that got killed on the Senate floor by 2 votes. But we basically we told Bayer to get the hell out of our state. And they were trying to get Idaho to give them immunity from lawsuits, just like, as you know, as probably most of your audience knows, or people watching this, pharmaceutical companies right now have immunity from vaccine injuries. So if you have a vaccine injury or you die as a result of a vaccine, which does happen, by the way, it's like the government has paid out. Do you know what the number is? In the billions, I think.
Yeah, I forget now.
There's a government fund that pays out victims and families, people who have vaccine injuries and stuff like that. So Bayer was trying to essentially get that same type of immunity for Roundup. So that falls under kind of that health freedom umbrella to me. And we killed it, and they tried to bring it back version 2 and then version 3, and none of them saw the light of day. So, I mean, that was good. That felt really good to stop that bill, because it's a horrific idea. Forget the bill, the idea itself, to give a multinational, multi-billion-dollar company lifetime immunity from the harm caused by the products they produce is beyond belief to me. It's asinine. So it was good to stop that bill as well.
Yeah, for sure. So this says, to date, CSIP has paid compensation for 34 CSIP claims, totaling more than $6 million.
I think it's way more than that.
Yeah, that's just CSIP. So I need to see a billion. Here we go. Totaling $5.2 billion.
Wow.
That since 1988, the vaccine court has awarded compensation to almost 10,000 people, totaling more than $5.2 billion. And that money is not coming from, the vaccine makers.
And that's, when you even say vaccine court, people go, there's no vaccine court. There's a government-run vaccine court that like, for anyone who's watching, if you haven't gone down that rabbit hole, it has to do with VAERS, or what would they look up to? Do you guys have anything on your website about that?
Yeah, we do. Yep, for sure. VAERS.
Yeah. VAERS. Start look at 5 billion in compensation for vaccine deaths and injuries. That's crazy. Yeah. But it was an interesting legislative session, because it feels like so many good bills got stopped or held up or never even given a hearing. But again, we need more conservatives in there who are strong and have moral courage, really, who have tenacity. We need people who want to sign up for Fight Club, conservative Fight Club members. That's what we need. So.
Well, you're a good example of that. One last thing, though, I think you should educate the people watching about your anti-SLAPP bill. Can you explain that, educate people, and where it ended up?
So it died by 2 votes on the Senate floor. This is the first time an anti-SLAPP legislation has ever been introduced in Idaho, ever. So that bill, essentially what it was a free speech protection bill that had family member in here looking for someone. It was a free speech protection bill that would have, if it passed, protected all Idahoans from getting bankrupted or buried or both by frivolous lawsuits. So, example would be, say you wrote a blog, Misty wrote a blog, and you said something about me I didn't like, and I'm either a rich and or powerful person or a rich and powerful organization, and I said, you know what, I'm going to sue you for libel or defamation because you wrote a blog I didn't like, or you said something at a town hall or you did a mean tweet that I thought was really mean and I want to sue you. Not because I think I can win, but because I have, theoretically in this analogy, I don't, but I have unlimited, basically, money's not an object to me. I could hire a team of lawyers to just bury you, knowing that I might even lose the lawsuit, but just to bankrupt you and make you spend money and tie you up in court for years. So the anti-SLAPP, SLAPP stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. And just think of it as a distraction lawsuit or a bullshit lawsuit, because that's what they are. And this bill would have said, hey, if you're going to bring one of these lawsuits to court, and it seems like it's like a lawsuit that doesn't have any merit, or on its face, it's not like, there's not really this isn't really this is bogus. This isn't a real lawsuit. It's a frivolous lawsuit is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
It would allow the judge to basically hit pause up front and say, hey, before we go through discovery, before we do all this stuff, and before you spend a bunch of money, let's up front, before we get started, let's just see if this is even a real lawsuit. You have to prove to me this is even worth hearing. And if it's not, we'll dismiss the case right now. And I'm just doing 100,000-foot layman's terms, not that I'm a lawyer anyway, but we'll dismiss the case right now. And whoever loses pays the other person for wasting their time on this bullshit lawsuit. So a lot of states, I believe there was only 18 states, I think is the number, do not have anti-SLAPP protection. California is better than us in this regard. Yeah. California has anti-SLAPP laws. Utah passed this same bill last year. We got it through committee. It had all of the support from everyone. The ACLU supported it. The Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, Health Freedom Idaho, like groups on the left and on the right and everywhere in between supported it. It had no real opposition. We had a long committee hearing on it. It passed out of committee. It made it to the floor, and I had a conversation. And the way I counted the votes going on to the floor after talking to several people, I thought it was going to pass by one vote. I thought it would have passed the floor by one vote. And I think it would have easily passed the House, just my gut feeling. But instead, when they were doing so I presented the bill on the Senate floor. No one argued against the bill. No one argued. They said, hey, I don't like the bill because, like, paragraph 2, section A says, no one argued against the bill. There was 2 or 3 people, I think it was 2, just said, I don't know about this. It's kind of new. I'm like, I know, that's the whole point. What every bill we introduce is new. What does that even mean? So
stop it.
So it died. It died by I think it was 3 votes or 2 votes, and it got killed on the Senate floor. And the bummer is, it was a political, from what people have told me, because people talk and then stuff gets around. They didn't want to give me a win as a conservative because they knew this anti-SLAPP bill was very important to me. They didn't want to give a conservative a win in an election year. So even people who supported the bill, last minute, 3 people called me on the Senate floor. There's these little phones, and you can like call the person across the thing and say, hey, how are you guys voting on this? People just call and talk. 3 people called me who voted for the bill in committee. And as they were doing the roll call, like, how do you vote? How do you vote? As they were doing the roll call, 3 people called me and said, hey, I know I voted for it in committee, but I can't vote for it. I have to change my mind. Sorry, bye. So there was some conversations were had, and they didn't want to give me a win. And I'm not bummed about it for me. I'm bummed about it for Idaho.
Yeah, right. Because
this would have helped liberals, conservatives, atheists, Christians, whatever. This would have helped everybody. And it really is. And you bet your ass I'm bringing this thing back if I get reelected. It's a free speech protection bill. Yeah. That protected normal people like you and me from getting buried in lawsuits and possibly bankrupted by like rich organizations or, stuff like that. So it's a bummer for Idaho that it didn't pass, because the Idaho Supreme Court, I worked with them. I worked with all the people that it would have been a smooth transition if it did pass. And there really wasn't any opposition to it.
Well, here's what I don't like about that phone call, and maybe you've got some insight that I don't, but what does that mean when they say, I have to vote against this? I know I voted before, but now I have to vote against it. What is the pressure that makes them have to vote against
it? I guess it's different. No, so one of the people who called me, I said, no, you don't have to vote against it. Oh, I really want to vote for it. I'm like, so vote for it. That doesn't, it's different for different people. I think, people are promised things. I don't do this because I wouldn't, hey, if you vote against this, we'll give your bill a hearing over here. Hey, if you vote against this, people do that kind of stuff. So it's just conjecture on my part. I heard a few things. One of the people who voted against it didn't like someone who liked the bill. He literally said this on the Senate floor. He said, so-and-so, there's someone who supports this bill, and I don't like that someone, so that means there must be something wrong with the bill, because if that guy in the gallery supports it and I don't like that guy, then this bill must be bad. So it's very like petty stuff like that. But giving conservatives a win, some people don't like doing that. And right now there's more moderates and liberals in the legislature than conservatives. So at the end of the day, we're still kind of beholden to, we still don't have the numbers to just kind of do whatever we want, which
it's so shameful to let these petty things get in the way of actually growing freedom in Idaho and protecting freedom for your own children. It's like, how small and petty does a person have to be to put that kind of thing, like, I don't like that guy up there, or I have to, or whatever, I want my bill to be heard, to be like, you know what, just forget about it to my kids, because they can have these anti-First Amendment lawsuits against them. I don't really care, because I care about that less than I care about that person up there liking this bill. It's painful and pathetic.
You have to be very small and petty to let, and some of the things people kind of, how do I say this? Some of the things that people will like trade their vote or sell their vote for, not literally for money, but it's like, well, this lobbyist took me out to a really nice dinner, so I'm going to kind of do it. Like I could give two shits about if a lobbyist takes me out to dinner, and I really don't care what the lobbyist class thinks about me. I already know what most of them think about me, and I don't lose any sleep over it, because I'm not there to serve the lobbyist class or to serve the governor or to serve their bureaucracy. I'm there to serve the people. And that's why, like I said a few times, that's why I'm getting like the whole world coming down on me for this re-election, because they want me to shut the hell up and get out of there, because they want weak men. Really, I mean, the Tucker Carlson thing is perfect. They want weak men and women who they can control in the legislature. That's where we're at as a state with health freedom and a lot of other kind of things going on.
Well, I see that happening to you online, friend, and I just want you to know, I hope that you're taking all these arrows that are coming at you and just like converting it into energy and then just doubling down. That's what I hope.
Redirecting it. Yeah. I don't lose a whole lot of sleep over it. Sometimes it's annoying because it's human nature to want to like defend yourself, but at the same time, you don't want to give air to, and sometimes you have to like defend yourself ish. Yeah. Like if you're at a public, I'm doing a town hall thing tonight, I'm sure something will come up. I can't just say nothing. Yeah. But you're also giving idiots oxygen, when you jump in to defend yourself. And at the end, I don't really care what strangers think about me. The list of people's opinions who I care about is very small. Yeah. And online trolls and journalists and lobbyists, they aren't on that list. So it is a weird thing to see yourself just get trashed in the paper and the news over and over and over, and have like door knockers coming, literally spamming Nampa, just passing out just lies about me. And I know people say, oh, it's politics, they're lying about me. But when it's actually like an objective lie, you're like, this, gosh, could you guys just attack me for something I really did? Maybe would be nice. Or yeah, so it's a weird feeling, but I don't find my identity in being in the Senate, you know, I find my identity in Christ and in God. So if you find your identity in it, then these kind of political attacks can ruin someone. But for me, it's just like water off a duck's back. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, obviously I like to punch back sometimes, and I'm very vocal and opinionated and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's not, my identity is who I am in God's eyes, not being a senator, you know, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense. I have to live in that space also. You know, it's one of those things. I think we've forgotten what you and I used to learn in our childhood. I'm sure you heard this too. Like, I'm water, or what? I'm rubber. Your glue bounces off me, sticks to you, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you just grew up in that era where you're like, I'm just going to throw it back at you. Like, I don't care, you know?
yeah. So it's a wild world, but I think it's important for, you know, we have for the registered Republicans out there and people who are unaffiliated or whatever, you know, we have this Republican primary coming up on May 21st. We have the state primary coming up. So it's important to get out there and vote, and to, for people, it sounds, I hate, you know, I feel like such an idiot, like, get out there and vote. It's important, and do your education. And, but it really is, because in Idaho, most of the elections are decided at the primary level. The Republican primary just is the election for most of Idaho, because Democrats don't win because of their ideology. Third parties, that's just a whole third parties. Anything. It's just we're a two-party system. That's just how things were set up. So third parties, every now and then you'll get someone in Congress, you know, who's maybe an independent or whatever, but it's typically whatever the two most popular parties are. That's where the fight is. So people need to realize, you know, we have a primary coming up on May 21st, and to get out there and vote. That's something that, because that's where you get to decide if you're in one of these districts like mine in Nampa. The same guy I beat last time is running against me again. He's pretty moderate, establishment Republican type guy. And the Republican primary is where Nampa, for my race in District 13, gets to decide what type of Republican they have representing them. Is it a moderate establishment guy, or is it someone who's, you know, in the Freedom Caucus and a very conservative guy? That's kind of what the battle is. And that's not just my district. That's a lot of districts this time around.
Yeah. And so where can they find you, and how can they help if they're in your district? Is there a way to reach out to you and see if they can get plugged in to help? Yeah.
So if they go to votelenney.com, that site you had up earlier, just two E's, Lenney. You can email me, text me. I have my cell phone number on my website, Gmail. Just reach out if you want to help and you're in the district. Door knocking is a huge thing. We have people out knocking doors all over Nampa. Just reach out to me and say, you know, tell me how you want to help, and just hit that contact button, and everything's on there.
And it looks like people can donate on here. I mean, it's a big deal. Donating to campaigns is a big deal. Am I right?
Yeah. And it's not like we're putting the money in our pocket. You know, that money goes for mailers. Those, you know, everyone's getting their mailbox bombarded. That direct mail costs a lot of money. Goes towards brochures. It goes towards, you know, events. If you have to like rent out an event center, stuff like that. But it's essentially goes to marketing your campaign. It's not money we're keeping or using. So, you know, so yeah, fund the fight. I mean, yeah, you can contribute online. If you want to volunteer, if somebody wants to host like a little meetup at their house, that's something we do also, where we kind of like, someone says, hey, I'll open up my living room and invite all my friends, and we come over and have a conversation just like you and I have been having, and people ask questions, and that's a good way to get to know your candidates also.
Perfect. Well, Brian, I just really want to thank you for all that you've done the last couple of years at the Capitol for health freedom issues. You have been a champion, and also I find you to be one of the most authentic legislators at the Capitol, really in all my years of working at the Capitol, which has been since about 2015. I've been there as an activist. And so that's saying a lot, to say that you really are genuinely one of the most authentic people I've seen representing their district at the Capitol. So I hope that your district takes that for what it is, and looks at your votes, and looks at all you've done and all the arrows that you've taken, and they're educated voters on May 21st.
Love it. I appreciate that. That's cool. Yeah, you've been in this fight longer than I have, officially. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, the people of Nampa are very conservative, so I'm optimistic about the election, and yeah, people just need to remember to get out there and vote on May 21st.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a good time on the rest of your trip, friend.
Yes, thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye for now.